Guten Morgen. Welcome. Hello.
What'd
To
you
Collin
just
Curtis in what?
What'd you just say to me?
I said good morning.
Oh, okay.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Getting closer to Christmas. I like
It
it.
is. Do you know what we're doing right now? Do you know what this is?
We're letting it die.
We're letting it say goodbye to this podcast. And hello to Collin and Curtis in the Morning, episode 62. We are getting close to the middle of December. And so this episode and then next week will be our last episodes of the year.
Wow.
How about that?
It's flown by, I think, this year has.
It has been a year.
Yeah.
In both video games and elsewhere.
And life.
As it goes, years happen and
Games keep coming out.
Games keep coming out. They don't stop. We haven't crashed yet.
Oh.
In a while, at least. Collin, we live in a world where I can't speak for you, but I have finished not just Final Fantasy 15, but also The Last Guardian, and it's a weird feeling.
It's incredible.
It's incredible, and I'm very happy that those two games will likely end up in my top 3 of the year by some miracle. But that said, it's a weird thing, you know. It's maybe in the future we can look at kind of what else is there, you know, what other weird dreams could come to fruition, or what other like development hell games are out there, because I'm kind of at a loss for even thinking of games that have, you know, I guess Neo technically in a weird way, but there's not many games left, I feel, after this year where it's like, yeah, that's been around for a while. There's Half-Life 3, but that's never coming out.
Yeah. Maybe someday.
But you know, maybe we can look at that later. But Collin, so PlayStation Experience has come and gone.
Mm-hmm.
The Game Awards have come and gone. Everything, you know, there's really not much left for this year. It's, you know, there's still some games coming out. There's actually quite a list of games coming out to the PlayStation Network store next week. So that should be exciting. Maybe we'll talk about a couple of those. But, you know, all that's left really is just to play some games and maybe talk about games that are better than others in this year. We'll get to that too, maybe later on. But Collin, there is a few news stories. There's just a couple, a few that came in throughout this week. And so they were kind of the stragglers. They weren't necessarily at PlayStation Experience, but there's just a few things here. So first off, Dragon Quest Heroes 2.
Just why couldn't this have been like at the show? That was really confusing to me when I saw this trailer announcement.
That's my question as well. I don't really understand why. I mean, there was a whole section of their press conference last weekend where they announced a bunch of localizations for games. You would think, like, I get it, Dragon Quest Heroes came out over here and it bombed hard, but, like, wouldn't you want to trot out Dragon Quest, like, any Dragon Quest thing, anything, and be like, hey, look, we're localizing it. It exists. It's coming out in April. Please buy it. Like, wouldn't you think you would want that? Like, I don't know if they could have had a demo ready for PSX, but just something. I really don't understand it.
Please buy excited.
Please be excited. Please understand. April 25th in the US and April 28th in Europe is when Dragon Quest Heroes 2 is coming out. I'm really excited. I'll be buying this. You know, I liked the first one, and I love Dragon Quest, so obviously I'm going to get it. It's got one of the new characters in this game. I'm trying to remember if I'm saying his name right. It's like Torneco or something. I think Tortilla. No, I think the first one I got right. Anyways, he's new character to Dragon Quest Heroes, but he's a character from Dragon Quest 4, one of my favorites from that game. He's a shopkeeper, so there's a whole chapter dedicated to him, in which most of the chapter you're just like going to your weapon shop and selling weapons to people as they come by.
Okay.
Before you set on your adventure. He's just a really cool little guy, cool character. He's new this time, so I'm excited about that. Stardew Valley. This had been announced for console, I think earlier in the year. It is finally coming out on PlayStation 4 on December 13th. That is next Tuesday.
Yep.
Tomorrow, if you're listening to this the day that it goes live.
Yeah.
I guess the developer said that he is interested in porting it to Vita.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So that would be neat if that does happen. But it is coming out this week on PS4. I'm really excited to play this. I don't know about you, Collin.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This is kind of like a Harvest Moon type thing.
Yep.
Never played Harvest Moon, but it was always a game that always kind of intrigued me, and I always felt like I could get into. I love just kind of the same way. I love the style of it. Like, I love that kind of just like almost calmness.
Yeah.
Of like just being able to play and not
relaxing.
Yeah, it's like, it seems like a very relaxing type of game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel the same as you. Never played Harvest Moon. Always kind of felt like, oh, I bet I could get into that the way I do like Animal Crossing or something. And with all of, like the praise that was heaped at this game, I think late last year, around the time it came out, I've been kind of had my eye on it for a while, and I think once the console ports were announced, it was like, okay, I'll just wait until that comes out.
Yeah.
And then finally, Elite Dangerous is coming to PlayStation 4. I think specifically they narrowed it down to like Q2 2017.
Okay.
So probably sometime in the spring. It will have PlayStation 4 Pro support.
Cool. This is a game that's been on PC and I know at least Xbox One for a while. Isn't it just kind of, it's a ship combat game?
It's a space exploration game where you can go into space and land on different planets. Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And explore planets throughout space.
What if we could get one of those on PS4?
Yeah, it'd be cool if we had like a game like that on it.
What if it feels like first person?
No, so this one specifically is the Milky Way galaxy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that's like the thing where like specifically is like, oh, okay, this is not just like some random galaxy or planet or whatever. Okay.
So Elite Dangerous Andromeda is coming next year, right?
Yeah. Spring.
Okay. Spring. Yeah, right.
Did you see apparently BioWare put out a statement where it was like, oh, you don't need to worry about Mass Effect Andromeda's release date. We'll announce when we're ready to. And I'm like, okay. But I still don't believe it's coming out in the spring.
Yeah, right.
But hey, more power to you. I hope you prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, maybe don't. Maybe there's too many games coming out early next year.
Developers just need to stop making games.
They should,
so we can catch up. So we can catch up for once.
Yeah, just put it on pause. If only we could freeze time.
Yeah.
Look, this game industry, just let it die.
Oh.
What? I don't mean that.
Dun dun dun.
But I do want to talk about, Collin, a game called Let It Die.
From Grasshopper.
Yes. So we promised. We said we're going to talk about it this week. We're going to talk more about Let It Die this week. We'll have played more of it. We're going to talk more about what this game is. Collin, I hear you've sunk like 40 hours into this game.
I think you mean like 40 minutes.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's pretty similar.
I think that's what I said. Maybe. I don't
know. So I've played a lot of Let It Die this week, and I love it.
Great.
Collin, before I start, I'll give a little intro to what this game is, and I would like to hear what you think, at least, of your 40 or so minutes that you've played. Mm-hmm. You said you got a little past the tutorial.
Yes.
So I've been thinking a lot, and I know that what I'm about to say kind of became a bit of a meme for a while, and it'd be kind of irritating when people would be like, "Oh, this is like this game specifically," and it's like, yeah, well, come on. But I really mean it, and I think it is actually really fitting for Let It Die. When I say that Let It Die, in a lot of ways, feels like if someone were to ask, if Dark Souls was a roguelike, what would that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And now, while that game in that series already has kind of pseudo roguelike elements, Let It Die is taking that kind of question and running with it in a big way. And I mean, the difference obviously is it's got Suda51's kind of style and weird wackiness to it. But at its core, it really does feel like this like mashup of Dark Souls sensibilities with a roguelike, and kind of having the free-to-play nature kind of swirled in there as well. And that is, I think that's the simplest way that you can describe this game. Because with it comes a lot of kind of things that you can start, I guess, assuming about what that means for this game, where it's hard. The core loop of how you build your character, of how you collect a certain currency that you need to return to a base to use to level up your character, and you're leveling up specific stats. The way that it punishes you for dying, the way that you would lose things upon death and have to kind of restart from the ground up. There's also the roguelike nature of it has kind of randomly generated floors, maybe not to the extent you would assume of other roguelikes. There is a bit of a random generation to it. And of course the free to play nature as well comes with its own burdens, I guess. What you maybe say, but I would even argue that Let It Die is actually really, really nice about its free to play stuff, and we can get into that as well. But Collin, so you played a bit past the tutorial. What are your thoughts so far on Let It Die from what you've seen?
The opening I think is great. The Uncle Death character I think is really funny. I really enjoyed just like not really knowing what this game was. Like I knew barely like the bare minimum of what the game was, and just starting it up and playing it, I thought it was really funny.
Yeah. And we should Uncle Death. We should say he's the first character you meet in this game.
Mm-hmm.
He is the Grim Reaper. It's a skeleton and the cloak with the scythe. With
weird sunglasses.
Wearing sunglasses. Sometimes those sunglasses change randomly.
Yeah.
He rides up on a skateboard.
Yeah.
And he is the least serious incarnation you can imagine of a Grim Reaper kind of character.
Yeah.
Very, I don't even know. There's like so many different words. Like I guess you could say like hipsterish, but not quite.
He's beaming with style.
Beaming with style. He's like wisecracking, but like he's a mixture of a lot of things. And he's the kind of character that even just with a few lines, you're like, yeah, okay, Suda51. Yes, of course. This is the kind of character I expect from a game developed by Grasshopper Manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
In every way. He's something else. He's like, and in some ways, like the lifeblood of this game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The stuff that he says, like, and we'll talk more about some of his appearances in the game. But yeah, so Uncle Death is fantastic. Go on.
Yeah. So I haven't really even met that many characters past him. Like I met some of the shopkeepers.
There's not many.
Yeah, there's not many. There's this weird lady with
mushroom lady.
Mushroom lady with horns that sticks out of her head. Am I right?
Yes.
I
don't remember her name.
Yeah, you can probably tell me more about her. And then there is this other guy who looks like a human who upgrades your weapons and stuff like that. I don't know if you unlock. It's kind of like your hub area after you get through the beginning. Is there more kind of vendors that open up, or is those two mostly it?
Mostly. There's a couple others.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're not necessarily people.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
Okay. Gotcha. I found myself trying to take it slow when I went through my first run through the place, through the Tower of Barbs. I decided to take it slow, and then eventually all my weapons just started breaking, and I just had no health left, and I just decided to start sprinting to the end of the level.
Right.
which probably didn't work out too well because at least with the one that I did, I had to turn a valve to get to the next escalator.
Yeah.
To move on, and of course, by the time I started spinning or tried turning the valve, all the enemies that literally from the entire level just came chasing after me and just
They
ripped me to
chase you for a
shreds.
while.
Yeah.
It seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we should say that the setup for this game is the post-apocalyptic. I think like 2064.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think that's the year. And there is this tower of barbs, and there's some like the setup makes some kind of connections to Tower of Babel in a way, or at least that's what I got from it. But your goal of the game is to climb the tower and get to the top. The legend says that there is a very, very valuable treasure at the top of the tower. And so you're going floor by floor, riding up escalators, unlocking elevators so that you can return back to the waiting room, which is your hub. And that is kind of the progression of the game. Okay. So you've done the tutorial. How much farther did you go past that?
Not much. I think that I was on the first floor and I tried to get to the second floor.
Okay.
And I died and I had to go do something else and had to turn it off. But just the gameplay to me, I don't know how much I would get hooked into. So you have like two-handed kind of thing. Like you have like the L2 is like your left hand and R2 is like your right hand. I just don't know. I guess I haven't really gotten that many weapons. Like I've only gotten that spinny thing. Yeah. That you get early on. I've just punched. I think I've got a gun like once, and like that's all I've gotten. And to me, like when I did my first run, I just had like a gun with only a certain amount of bullets in it, and then of course you just shoot as many enemies as you can, and then eventually you just run out of bullets, and I haven't found another weapon yet, so you just basically have to go around trying to punch people with other weapons, and it's pretty hard to do that after that. But I don't know how much I can get into this after playing the tutorial. The tutorial is kind of the thing that like hooked me, but I don't really know. It's like a presentation. It's like you got to have that like attention getter, and like it got me.
It certainly does. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I've just got like this. It just feels like now I'm maybe gonna start listening. I don't know yet because I need to play more.
Well, I'll try to see if I can reel you back in.
Okay.
Because I do think one thing. So you're right. Like the beginning of this game, it has the most story, at least that I've seen so far. Mm-hmm. There's been tiny bits, and most of the like moments or cutscenes really occur when you get to like a boss. I've only got past one main boss. There's been a couple of mini bosses I've done.
Okay.
And there's a group of characters I've run into. But like a lot of the story is very sparse and minimal. It's mostly like, okay, here's this intro to kind of catch you, and especially if you don't know what this game is, like when you first meet Uncle Death, it's going to be a thing of like, oh, well, hold on a minute, wait a minute, what? Mm-hmm. And it's going to have you interested in wanting to see more. At least so far, unfortunately, there's not really a lot of story that comes in. Okay. I don't think that's going to change. I'm on like floor 15.
Oh, wow.
And the other thing is, I don't know for sure how many floors there are. I've seen the number 40 thrown around a lot. But I think, or at least I've gotten the impression, that this is a game that's going to be adding floors over time.
Wow.
I'm pretty positive that's a thing because of a couple things that I know about. But I'm not for sure yet. And I think with its free-to-play nature, I think it probably would benefit in some ways, but I think it would make sense for this to be a game that came out with a set number of floors, and the tower just gets like taller and taller as time goes on. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, I don't even know if there's necessarily a story-wise like a big ending.
Yeah.
Or how that's going to factor in. But anyways, so you have. Again, like I think the Dark Souls comparisons are especially evident in combat, or this is a game that is, you can wield a weapon in either hand. There's lots of different weapons you can choose from, and the weapons in your hands are mapped to the shoulder buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's kind of this connection that you have between you and your character when you're playing, where it's like, yeah, the right shoulder button or the R2 is right hand, left hand is L2, and so it just kind of makes sense. But it's also with the difficulty, it's something that you have to really. It's very methodical the way that the combat is paced, and you've got to really think about it. It's a bit fast. Maybe it's not as slow as a Souls game necessarily can be, but it is something that you follow through on your attacks. There's an animation priority there, and so when you are attacking, you've got to commit to that. It's not like an action game where you can like cancel out of attacks and roll away and stuff like that. I think one of the main differences is there's no encumbrance. There's no like weight to weapons and items.
That's good.
So you're not going to slow down depending on how much you're carrying, which it's really good. I don't think that would work in this game. But to your point, so like about the weapons, there are a ton of weapons in this game. I've only found about half of them. So just to list off, there's like a baseball bat, there's a sword, which I don't think I've found yet.
Oh, okay.
There's like a pistol, there's a sniper rifle, there's I think like an assault rifle. There is a apocalyptic hockey stick, which is one of my favorite weapons.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
There is an iron, as in like something you would iron your shirts with.
Yeah.
And that weapon has some pretty incredible moves that you can do. There's an iron hammer. There's a ton of different weapons, and one of the things that I like about this, so in a roguelike you have certain things are like, oh, if you die then you go back to the start. And so in this game, it's a game that doesn't want you to get used to any given character. There's no character customization. They just hand you one, whether it's male or female, whatever you choose, and it gives them a random name. You can go back and change the name later. But what it does is, I think early on, it's one of those games where you accept that you're just going to die. That's just going to happen. That's the way the game is made. But, whether you learn from your mistakes or not, that character is expendable to an extent. You can actually get them back. So in other roguelikes, maybe when you die, you just restart.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, when you die, like, they actually stay in the location that they died. So another player, let's say I died on floor 5, Collin, and then you're playing through, you get to floor 5, and you come across my character.
Well, has this happened before, Curtis?
Well, yeah, let's just say that I came across your character on floor like 1 or 2. I guess 1.
Yeah, let's just say that happened.
And so I see it's like, oh, it's Bossman C. Crowder, 1.
1, yes.
And your character's standing there. In this case, it's AI controlled.
Yeah.
So it's all player versus enemy. There's no PvP in this game. But what it is it's your character. It's the equipment that you had. It's the weapons you had. They're just controlled by an AI, and they're naturally stronger than other enemies that you would find. And so I can defeat your character if I want, and I could get, maybe you might drop something, or that character might drop something that you had. Or you could then run into that character, your same character. And they're called haters. So you could run into your own hater, and if you kill it, that the body of your prior character is returned to the freezer. Now the freezer is a thing within the waiting room, which is the hub area.
Mm-hmm. I guess
so. Basically, you can starting out you can have up to 3 fighters, and so if you kill your own hater, they'll go back, and then you can kind of recover them.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point you could choose to take them out of the freezer and you can play with them again. So if you've been leveling up a character, let's say you get them up to like level 20, and you're getting like, maybe to floor 8 or 9, you're making good progress and you die, you could find them again on that same floor and kill them to get them back, or you could spend kill coins, which is kind of the game's main currency. And kill coins you can get from killing enemies. You can find them in random like briefcases in the level. You can get them in any number of different ways. Kill coins are pretty easy to come by. It's something that you could potentially get a lot through microtransaction stuff, which we'll get to. But I wouldn't recommend it because kill coins are actually, they're not hard to get. You can easily get a lot in a relatively short amount of time. But that is the game's main currency. So depending on the floor that you died, will reflect how much you need to pay to get them back. Okay. So you might need to pay 6,000 kill coins to recover your prior fighter who's dead on floor 7 or something. So unlike other roguelikes where you die and then you restart, death in this game is punishing. You do lose that stuff that you have, but you can pay a fee in-game currency to get them back. And you probably should do that, especially when you get to higher ranked characters that you can level up quite a bit. You probably don't want to lose them, because not only can you take these characters out and explore the Tower of Barbs, you can also use these characters to set up defenses, because your waiting room can get raided by other players. Mm-hmm. So let's say, Collin, that you're playing Let It Die, and you've got like 20,000 kill coins. There's also another form of currency called Splithium, which is another form that you can use to upgrade different parts of your waiting room. And so let's say you've got like 2,000 of that, which is a pretty good amount. You log off, go about your day, and then the next day you log back in to Let It Die, only to find that your waiting room is on fire.
Oh no.
So people can invade your waiting room when you're offline. And what happens is any of your characters that you've been building up and leveling up and have in the freezer, if you set them on to defend your waiting room when someone invades, they'll come out, AI controlled, and they'll defend the waiting room to the best of their ability. Now, they're probably going to die because they're playing against other players, unless they're like really highly leveled.
Yeah.
But you only got like 2 minutes to do a raid. And so what you do when you get to the waiting room, there are 2 banks. One of the banks holds your kill coins, the other holds the Splithium. And so when you're raiding, you want to destroy those banks. The more damage you can do to a bank, the more currency you can take from a player. So for instance, a couple nights ago, I wasn't aware of this, because it's the raiding stuff. You kind of get a little bit deeper into the game before that's explained to you.
Did you raid me, Curtis?
I did not raid you.
Okay.
I have been raided many times because I left and logged out of my game with like 30,000 plus kill coins.
Yeah.
I came back to find 10,000 of those kill coins had been stolen by other players.
Oh no.
Now again, luckily that's that currency you can get pretty quick. But it's one of the early things I learned is before you log out, you should probably spend a lot of your currency. Mm-hmm. That way, if someone comes to try to raid you, there's not much to take. However, you can potentially, when raiding, maybe one of their fighters comes at you, you're attacking them, and you knock them out. I don't know if there's a specific way to do it or if it's just random. But if you knock them out, you can pick them up and steal them, and you can take them back to your base and hold them hostage.
Man.
And when you do that, they will reset in the bathroom. So after a certain amount of real world time, you could potentially use that fighter yourself. Mm-hmm. Or you can hold a bounty over their head. And if a certain player wants that character back, they would have to pay you money, kill coins, to get them back. Or if someone, let's say, and this happened to me, I was holding some other player's character. I logged off. One of the people that raided me actually went into the bathroom and broke the jail cell. And so they freed that character and they were able to return back to their original owner. So there's that. And so that's kind of a big raid mechanic. You can like choose to align yourself with a state or country wherever you're from. So I'm part of Ohio, naturally. Actually, right now there is a big fight going on between Ohio and Michigan. And that is kept track of, like, when you raid, depending on how well you do, you get medals. And so that, like, it adds up between all the different players to determine a winner over a certain amount of time. It actually kind of reminds me of the Splatfest from Splatoon. where you'd have two teams just playing, and the better each team did at different things, they would be earning points to go towards this overall war. And so that's going on, and like there was a big one between like Tennessee and Alabama, I think, a few days ago. So right now it's Ohio and Michigan. And it is, yeah, like you laugh, but it is funny because like
the future of esports.
Right. Because it's like, yeah, like I was like, oh, well, I want to be in the Ohio team. And it, like right at the top, it would show other states that you're kind of like warring against, or potentially maybe you will in the future. And right at the top, it was like Ohio and Michigan. I was like, yep, okay, this checks out. So that's the whole like raid mechanic, which is like really interesting. I've only done a few of them so far.
Now it's not kind of related to like the Dead Nation, Alien Nation, like, hey, here's how many zombies, aliens you've killed in each country. Like,
no, not necessarily.
Okay.
In some ways, it feels similar to those kinds of concepts, though. I feel like a lot of games have had things like this that are like, yeah, okay, I think it's relatively easy to understand. It's just you get a little ways into the game, maybe after the first mini boss or something. I don't remember exactly when, but you do need to play a few hours before the raid stuff kind of is explained to you.
Okay.
And you can start doing it yourself. I don't remember what the exact point is, but there's that. That's a whole other mechanic. But to go back, it is a game that death is, it does punish you. It is very difficult. But there are also a lot of things about this game, and I think maybe this is unroguelike for Let It Die, is it's kind of really nice to you in a lot of ways, for as punishing as it can be. It's very lenient on different things. So for one, I mean, the fact that you can get your characters back, you can buy them back or whatever means necessary. Like when you buy them back, they retain all the experience they had, all the kill coins they got, all the splithium they got, all of the armor and the weapons that they had on them. All of that's retained. And so, normally in a game like this, you would think, oh, well, you lost it for good. Nope. You can actually, you can spend kill coins to get them back, and you won't lose anything. So in that way, I think it's really kind.
Yeah.
And this kind of gets into the free-to-play stuff. So as of right now, the only thing that you can buy are things called death medals. The death medals are represented by this icon. It's like a rainbow skull. And what death medals do is you can convert them. So one death medal equals 5,000 kill coins. Okay. And so naturally, you like if you had a lot of death medals and you needed a lot of kill coins in a very short amount of time, you could do that. But like I said earlier, like I would recommend not doing that because it's pretty easy to get kill coins pretty quick. You can, if you die, you can use one death medal to immediately revive yourself. And Collin, the way this is presented, I'm sure you've seen, is when you die, it kind of goes picture in picture. So your screen kind of like it zooms out, and so you still see like the screen of like you dying, the enemies around you. But this girl kind of shows up, and it's picture in picture, and she is offering you this kind of I don't remember what they call it. But it's this program that they have. This insurance.
Yeah. It's like, it's a 4-letter thing or something like that.
Yeah, it's some sort of like they have a thing for it.
Yeah.
But it's this form of insurance, and she presents it to you like, oh, it's it kind of feels like an infomercial almost.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, because you're a first-time customer, we've got a deal for you or something. But basically, what it is she holds up these two signs, and so one's yes, one's no. And if you want, you can spend one death medal to revive, and you revive right on the spot.
Yeah.
Nothing lost or anything like that. And so it actually kind of feels like an arcade machine where you would die and you'd put another quarter in.
So I have a story.
Okay.
I have a story. So I came across another player character when I was going through my first run.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had died yet. So I was fighting this other guy, and I almost had him like another like PvP kind of as like a PvP thing, and I almost had him killed because of course like you see another guy you just start fighting each other. You don't want to work together, and he ended up killing me. And then the thing zoomed out, and it was like, "Do you want to continue?" All that kind of stuff, and I continued, and the guy was running away, like, "Oh, I beat him, good job." And then so I did the attack where you basically sprint, and then you press X, and then you just
kick?
and you like drop kick him or something like that, and I just killed him.
That's amazing.
It was a great moment. Like I just came up behind him and killed him.
You mentioned the running away thing. It is something interesting about the haters specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Is they are AI controlled, but they do. It feels like they're programmed in such a way that they act more human.
Okay, so it might have been an AI then. I thought it was
there is no PvP in this game.
Okay, then never mind. I thought it was a real character. Okay,
but
it acted like a real character.
Yeah,
okay.
Because typically, an enemy kills you and they'll just walk around or whatever.
Okay.
But in this case, yeah, and like the thing is, the haters will also attack regular enemies.
Yeah, he was.
Actually, every enemy can do harm to any enemy, which I've used to my advantage. If you find yourself being chased by like 3 or 4 enemies, you can kind of position them so that when they swing their weapon, they can also hit other enemies, and that could be really useful.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these death medals, so you can use them to convert to kill coins. You could spend one to revive yourself if you want. You can also spend 2 to upgrade your storage, I think, or something like that. So there's a few different uses for it. I think you can also spend them. So like you talk about the shopkeeper that upgrades weapons. So when you're going through the tower, you'll find blueprints. You take these blueprints back to that shopkeeper, and you can do R&D. And so if you have the materials for it, you can spend a small amount of splithium, which is mainly what this is used for, to do R&D. And once the R&D is finished, you can then buy that weapon as many times as you want from that shop. So let's say you find a blueprint for, I don't know, like a hammer or something, like an iron hammer. You can spend the resources needed for it, which are, not too hard to find. And let's say it takes like 3 minutes. So R&D is always like on a real world timer. I've never seen, at least thus far, I haven't seen anything that's taken more than like 6 minutes. So, typically in a free-to-play game, you might be like, oh, I'm building this thing, but it's going to take like 7 hours, or it's going to take an hour. I've never seen anything come even close. Like, I've never seen go past 10 minutes. I'm sure that there will be maybe like super rare things for R&D that will be longer. But so far, it's been very short. But you can spend a death medal to make it go instantly. So that's kind of the uses for death medals. So far, that's the only thing you can buy. I have the page up right now. So here's how it works out, Collin.
Okay.
For 10 death medals, for $5, you can get 10 death medals. For $14, you can get 30 death medals. For $33, you can get 80 death medals. For $61, you can get 160 death medals, and for $100, you can get 280 death medals. It should also be said that through daily login bonuses, and different event things, different event things that they've been running all through this week, I usually almost always have at least 1 or 2 death medals. Actually, earlier today I logged on and I got 5 death medals.
Nice.
Now, again, this is the opening week. Maybe they're being a bit more generous giving stuff, but I've never felt like I needed to buy death medals, and even without them, I think the game has been generous enough with its other form of in-game currency that I don't necessarily feel any pressure to. Nor, and like what happens in maybe some other free-to-play games, I've been playing a lot of this game. I've sunk a good number of hours into Let It Die so far. I have never, at any point, felt like I've hit a wall where I've been like, oh, my stamina's gone. Or like any random thing within the game has gotten to a point where, oh, I actually can't play anymore. I need to wait till tomorrow. I need to recharge something. Or, oh, these timers are going too slow in R&D research. There's never been anywhere close where I've never hit a wall so far. In the way it's structured, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I do anticipate that there will be parts of this game as I get later on into the higher floors of the tower where it might get very, very difficult. where I might have a difficult time progressing through certain floors without death medals. I think that could potentially be a thing. It depends on how the difficulty kind of ramps up from here. But thus far, like, I think one of the key things for me with free-to-play games is, not necessarily do I feel pressured to purchase anything, which I don't think this game necessarily does. It certainly is there, and it presents it to you. I like that they give context for the death medals and everything, as weird as it is, and as fourth wall breaking as it is. I do enjoy that, but I don't. The game doesn't feel like it's pressuring me, and I don't feel like I'm hitting a wall, and I don't think I ever will. So that's all encouraging. The only big question mark so far is, so there are something called express passes.
And I think I've heard about these.
So basically what happens is, as you progress, let's say you get to floor 5, and you're like, well, I've made it pretty far. Or no, you get to floor 6, and you fight the second mini-boss. And the second mini-boss, like, it really screws you up real bad. It's a relatively hard fight if you don't know what you're doing. And you die. You have no death medal, so you go back to the waiting room, and you're thinking, but you got enough kill coins, so you revive that character, and you're like, man, and maybe you're thinking now, well, do we have to go all the way back up to floor 6 from floor 1? The answer is no. So on not every floor, but on a good number, like most floors, there's an elevator. And if you find the elevator in the floor, you can switch it on, and from that point on, from the waiting room, you can ride the elevator up to that floor. Yeah. So there are 2 elevators. There's the old rundown elevator with like no lights, and you can spend kill coins to go up any given floor that you've gotten to so far. And that, of course, the cost for that gets higher the higher you go to the tower. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's like a little over 1,000 kill coins to get to floor 14, I think. So even then, it's not super expensive. Or if you have an express pass, you can ride the luxurious elevator for free. So there are 2 express passes. There's the 1-day pass and the 30-day pass. Okay. I was given 2 free 1-day passes a few days ago, so I've only used one. They last for 24 real-time hours. Here's what you get with an express pass.
Lay it on me.
You get to ride the fancy elevator for free. So you can carry, it's like 21 items on you, but if you have an express pass, that's upgraded to 31.
Okay.
So there's things like that, basically, where you get free access to this really fancy elevator, and then also you can carry more items, and that's actually really important. I think that is more important than the elevator, because you're picking up a lot of materials, you're picking up a lot of weapons, a lot of equipment, a lot of mushrooms, and that is that's something where you're going to want the room. Like, you're going to want to have as much space as you can. And you can upgrade that with death medals, but at least where I'm at right now, like 21 is maybe not cutting it. That's maybe the one aspect where it's like, oh, that express pass is actually really, really good. But again, it's something that, Collin, I feel like a lot of the stuff that you're spending money for is for convenience. And it's not super, like, not having that convenience isn't so bad that you feel it it doesn't feel like a necessity to spend money.
Yeah.
Or to keep spending money. Because I'm enjoying this game enough where I wouldn't feel that bad about spending money. It's actually a kind of thing, I think I brought this up to you, maybe, I forget, where I kind of wonder why they went free to play with this game, because I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of free to play games are designed in such a way to get people to spend money. And not that this game isn't necessarily. I think a lot of people, at least from what I've seen, a lot of people are enjoying it and are willing to give the developer money because they are enjoying it so much. So it's like, it's actually a kind of a good scenario, which is rare for free to play.
Yeah.
But I wonder why they made that choice, because I don't know that there's necessarily anything in here that needs to be free to, like, I don't know. I wonder why, instead of it being like a $20 or a $30 game, or maybe even more, I wonder why they went this way instead of that. Maybe it's because the game will continue to be developed over time. Like maybe if they're gonna continue adding floors, maybe that's why. I'm not sure. I don't know that we'll ever get the chance to talk to them, but I would like to ask them. I wonder why they went free to play. But regardless,
you want to talk to Suda51?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
I would love that opportunity. I don't think we'll get it. But Collin, I wanna. There's a couple other things I want to mention. I want to try to reel you in, and I want to try to tell you some things that I think might grab your attention again. Maybe we'll get you more willing to jump back into this.
Okay.
So first off, I mentioned there's a ton of weapons in this game, and so weapons represent one of the forms of permanence that is within the game. As far as what are things that in roguelikes, maybe there's certain elements that you keep, and that's how you progress. It's okay, well, even if I'm dying and restarting, there's still this that I have that's showing that I'm progressing and getting farther and getting better.
Yes.
So weapons is one form of that. You have weapon mastery levels, and every weapon goes up to 20.
Yeah.
So weapons break. They break a lot. If you buy a weapon from that shop vendor, it's going to start with 100% durability, so it's going to take a little longer. But almost every weapon that you pick up, whether it's from an enemy that you've killed or you find it in a briefcase in a level, almost all the time, the durability on that weapon is going to be pretty low.
Okay.
And so again, how I think the game wants you to kind of not get used to any given character, I think it wants you to use every weapon that you can. A fist, totally viable option. Hammer, totally viable option. Sword, gun, baseball bat, hockey stick, axe, whatever. All of those are completely viable options, and it makes me want to use them. Even I think there's a couple weapons I'm not a huge fan of, but I still use them because I can still level them up by killing enemies. And as you level them up, they get stronger. You get new moves for them, and they just in general they are just much more effective as you level them up. And it doesn't matter, you don't need that one specific, let's say, baseball bat. Any baseball bat you pick up is going to retain that mastery level that you have.
Okay.
And because there's so many different weapons, and because it's one of those things where I don't like when weapons break or when armors break. It's one of my big pet peeves, along with having equipment burden, where it's I'm carrying too much, I'm really slow. I hate that in games, but I think this is one game that does weapon durability really well.
Okay.
And because it doesn't feel like a negative for you. What it does is it encourages you to try other weapons, and it encourages you because a lot of weapons are good in different scenarios. Some are fast, some are pretty slow. Some are two-handed, and so what it does is it just encourages you to experiment and try different things, and they're all fun in their own ways, and they all have their own rush attack or rage attack, and they all have their own gore-tastic attack.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
So basically, to be very quick about it, there's a rage meter that builds up. It's next to your health. When it builds up 1, 2, and 3, each weapon has its own version of a rage attack. It's kind of this you hold triangle. You do a regular weapon swing, but it does something a little bit more flashy. So the baseball bat, you kind of shove it forward and then up and then slam down. It does a ton of damage. Sometimes the enemy will just explode if you kill them. The iron. I brought up the iron. It's normally you would iron clothes with it. In this case, you're smacking people across the face with it. So what it does, if the gore-tastic stuff comes into play when you hit an enemy, and let's say you don't quite kill them, they got a little sliver of health left, but they're left kind of dazed and stunned. In that case, there will be a triangle prompt will appear. You can hit triangle, and then you can choose L2 or R2 for whatever weapon is in whatever hand. Let's say you're using the iron, Collin.
Okay.
What happens is you then take that enemy, bend them over your knee, take the iron, okay,
Uh-oh.
And you iron their face off until the only thing remaining from their head is just the skull.
Video games.
The baseball bat, as you can imagine, you swing at their head. Hockey stick.
I was wondering, like, if you
Similar.
swing and then, there's like a fake fence that just like shows up and it
Oh,
flies
that
over
would be
the fence.
incredible. So they're not. It's not that flashy.
Okay.
Right. But it is. But it does, like, especially the gore-tastic stuff. Like, it kind of slows down. The lights dim, and you do like a pretty quick, like, very special, unique animation. And those very bloody. This game is very violent.
Yeah.
But man, is it fun, and it's super rewarding.
Cool.
And that's, I think, the key here. And there's some pretty crazy bosses. There's like mid bosses you find. And they're of course unique. They have their own health bar. They're bigger. They are, one-on-one battles in kind of arenas, sort of. And then there's the one main boss I fought, Collin, which I don't want to spoil it. It involves a train, which is all I'll say.
Okay.
And it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. And so what I guess the message I want to get across, Collin, as someone who's put a lot of time into this and will continue, it's probably one of the few free-to-play games that I would like to spend more time with past, the first week. And so I don't know how long I'll stick with it. If I'll get to the final floor that it currently has and stop there, I don't know. But this is maybe the biggest surprise this year for me.
Wow.
And I'm having a great time with it. I think the core things to get across, Collin, is the combat is just really satisfying. It's tough. It's not overwhelmingly difficult, but it's tough and it's punishing. And that makes when you succeed and when you get past certain roadblocks you might find yourself behind, when you get past those things, it is very rewarding and it feels really good. Those gore-tastic kills, those rage kills, like, are one, they're gross in a way, and they're so over the top in a way that they're just really enjoyable, but it also just, it feels good. Like, the combat itself really does feel really great. And the other thing, so we don't know how much the express passes are going to cost. Those are not available in the store yet. I think they're aiming to get them up within the week. So right now I got 2 for free, but I think that was just kind of a launch deal. I don't know if you'll get express passes through daily logins. Maybe you will. I'm not sure. We don't know how much of those cost. And there's the 1 and the 30-day option. And there's even like a thing that you can toggle to do an auto renew. Those aren't available to purchase yet. They're supposed to be within the week. I think that might impact how I feel about the free-to-play nature of this game. Right now, I think it is probably the most lenient free-to-play game I've ever played.
Okay. Cool.
And in that respect, yeah, I don't know. Like, I find it really hard not to recommend this game to people. Like, it is absolutely worth trying because it is free. You can try it and see if you like it. But it is legitimately, like, something that I've been playing Watch Dogs 2, and, like, I was playing it earlier today, and I just stopped after a mission of Watch Dogs 2. Not that I'm not enjoying that game also, because that game's pretty good too. But I just stopped, and I'm like, I want to play Let It Die more. Yeah. And I usually don't do that when I have a new game. Yeah. So I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. I am legitimately, like, really, really loving this game a lot. It's got some jank to it, as you might expect from kind of a Grasshopper game. It's sort of, it's not like AAA or anything. It's not the best looking game ever. But man, is it fun. It's so much fun.
So I know we want to try and wrap this up.
Yeah.
But you can also, like, exit the game, and there's, like, this gal at the counter with quests.
Right. So, Collin...
And then there's this guy at an arcade.
We never brought up the twist.
Okay, yeah.
The twist is, it's all a video game.
Yeah.
Like, within... It's, so there's a lot of fourth wall breaking. The biggest part is when you're in the waiting room, there's a fountain in the middle. If you walk to the fountain, you can hit the button, and it zooms out, and you're actually in an arcade playing Let It Die. And so there's Uncle Death, and he'll talk to you and give little quips. You're playing on like some game console. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, you're right. So there's a girl at the counter who's just like constantly like texting in her phone and is very disinterested.
She's like, I only just work here. Like, I don't really know what's
right.
going on or something like that.
And she will give you, or well, maybe she won't necessarily. She will be there as you get quests.
Mm-hmm.
And the quests can be anything from kill this many enemies on this floor, find this many types of mushroom, kill this mid boss 3 times, anything like that.
Yeah.
And you can receive kill coins. You can receive death medals. You can receive different materials. And they're all ranked. Some of them are like, they're all ranked of like, this is an easy quest. This is a hard quest. You can have up to 10 on you at a time. The game even keeps a nice little counter on the side of the screen whenever you have done something new for any given quest that you're taking part in.
Good.
So that's another way to actually get death medals as well. So again, like really lenient with that stuff. There's a guy at the arcade. He's on like an arcade machine. He'll give you random tips if you talk to him.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there's a radio where you can
I remember the radio. That's yeah.
And there's a jukebox which will play different like cutscenes that kind of give some lore for different elements of the game.
Okay, cool.
And I guess really quickly we should mention the mushrooms. Mushrooms that you can randomly find throughout floors. Some of them heal you. Some of them will poison you. So you can eat mushrooms for healing items, or you can throw mushrooms that will explode, will poison enemies. Will create like an electrical field as like an AoE attack. You have to be really careful because throw is on the left side of the touchpad, eating is on the right side of the touchpad.
Yeah, that messed me up.
So there's been a few times I've kind of messed up with that as well.
Yeah.
There's also animals you can find. So you can find rats, frogs, scorpions, fish. Most of those will heal you. And so you can pick them up and eat them on the spot if they're like healing items, or maybe they'll give you 50% boost to your attack or your defense for like 30 seconds. Or you can store them. You can store them on you and save them for later when you need them. Or you can cook them. So sometimes you'll be running through a floor and there'll be like a random little patch of fire. And you can throw the mushrooms or the animals to the fire to roast them. And if you roast them, they'll either become more potent, and whenever they do, or they will have a completely different effect. So there's a whole thing there that you can get into. You mentioned the mushroom lady. The mushroom lady is like this painted female character. She's got horns. She's got this like gas mask looking thing. She's kind of one of the other vendors, I guess, in the main hub. And she loves mushrooms. She is obsessed with mushrooms. You can buy kind of these patches. They're basically tattoos. And so you can buy them and place them on your character, and they'll give different buffs. You can also buy this like mushroom soup, which will give you a special limited edition like patch. So that's her deal as well.
It's like Far Cry 3. It's like you learn a new ability, you get a tattoo on your arm.
Yeah, and then there's a golden box that shows up in the hub. Like every day, it gives you a special item, and then when you take it and you go out to the Tower of Barbs and you come back, a new one shows up and it's got some sort of counter. Usually it's around 24 hours, I think. And those will come in each day and give you a special unique item too. But yeah, I'm loving the game, Collin. I do think play a little bit more when you get a chance, and see what you think after maybe a few hours of it or something. But I am pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting anything from this game.
It sounds like it's got a lot of depth, like a lot more than I thought it did.
There's a lot. So there was a video on YouTube. It's about 50 or so minutes long, which I show specifically. So if you want to like see it for yourself, I show I think everything that I've seen, every like element, every feature or whatever in the game. So you can see some gameplay there if you want. There's a lot to this game, a lot to discuss. I'll probably keep playing it right after we finish recording. Actually, I'm really, really into it, and it seems like it's got a pretty good reception so far from people I've seen playing it as well. So hopefully it has a bright future ahead of it. Suda 51, it's totally got Suda 51's brand of weird, and wackiness. It's great. It's really, really good. So I say you should give it a few more hours when you get a chance, because I think you could end up enjoying this as well.
Okay. Cool.
I'd be interested to know what you think, especially because it is, combat wise at least, very, very similar to Dark Souls. And so there is that element too, which is the inspiration is clear on that front, I think. Yeah. But Collin, thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome, Curtis.
This will probably be our final regular episode, we'll say, of Collin and Curtis in the Morning for the year. So next week we'll probably have something special, maybe a year in review or something for next week, and that'll be it for this year. Yeah. And we'll be back on, I think, the 2nd of January or something. Yeah. A lot of stuff to look forward to for end of the year stuff for us, hopefully. I think we're still figuring it out, but we'll get there.
Something like that.
It's been a year. So Collin, why don't you take us out?
Okay. Sure. Well, I just want to say thank you for listening. If you've gotten all the way through this, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate you. You can follow us on Twitter. Actually, we haven't talked about this all too much. You can follow me on Twitter at BossmanCCrowder. Curtis, where can they find you?
They can find me at PSPenguin. In fact, someone did.
Oh, cool.
I believe I was tweeted something last night, Collin. I forgot to. I meant to bring it up at the top of the show, but I just remembered it, and I believe they brought it up in response to last week's episode.
Okay.
I think they didn't reference it, but I'm pretty sure this is what they were talking about. We talked about we were hyping up Knack in 4K.
Yeah.
For Knack 2. Because we're like, oh, Knack 2, we'll have Knack in 4K. It's gonna be great. The original Knack actually got a pro patch.
It did. Yeah.
So this was, I believe, Blue Apple on Twitter. Tweeted me and the PSNStores Twitter account to remind me and let me know that the original Knack does support the PlayStation 4 Pro in 4K. Okay. So thank you for that. I'm assuming that's probably what they were referencing was the last week's episode. So there's our first ever correction.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess. we made it 62 episodes in.
Yeah.
A full
every
year.
every correction is our first ever correction.
Every correction is our first ever one.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You can follow us the site at PSNStores. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/PSNStores.
Yeah, and you've been updating that.
Yeah, I've been trying to. I keep slacking every once in a while, but mostly all of our new posts, I post new things up there. And then also you can find us at Patreon, patreon.com/PSNStores. If you'd like to throw us a buck or two, keep this podcast ad-free, you can do that if you so choose. But with that, thank you very much for listening and or watching. If you're watching the long still image of this, we appreciate you.
This podcast has evolved in interesting ways.
It has evolved. Podcasting has changed. And we'll see you next week.